many of us have been following the Sabotage Act. Many European capitals put the finger against Russia and said it was Russia that blew up its own pipeline, which was nonsense, but many did. When I was asked over the last few months, I always said, well, there are many suspects in the room, and I didn't know. It was just you had some indication, like President Biden in January announcing that if Russia invades Ukraine, it will be abandoned, the pipeline. For me, one thing was clear ever since 2018, that the US was very much determined to make sure that this pipeline system would never ever become operative. I would not have expected them to even blow it up, but I said in public in 2018-19, when I still served as minister, I said my impression is that even if they cannot prevent its finalization in terms of construction, which they tried as much as they could, but finally it was finished, and then we had the whole certification process by the Germans, which was not really moving on. And then, happened what happened in 2022. But now, let's say they can be sure that it will not work, because they blew it up. So this is one thing. When it comes to Norway, it's very intriguing, because Norway, as much as I have always been observing this country, was in many of our eyes, I may say, always like the master pupil in diplomacy, mediator, Middle East, active Middle East mediation. Let us remember the Oslo agreements of the early 1990s. You had many Norwegian ministers of foreign affairs, prime ministers, who actively invested themselves, often in a very clever and discreet way, to make diplomacy happen. So the fact that Norway is actively involved in such a, let's call it, act of terrorism, breach of the international law, breach of the United Nations Charter, is really, to me, a big surprise.